It's great to have everybody here. Tonight, we're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation, and then I'll be recessing the meeting, probably just for a couple of minutes to go to our Community Facilities District meeting, and then I'll reconvene our regular council meeting, but it's basically one consent agenda item, so it won't take very long to do that. Our invocation tonight will be given by Commander Caleb Allred of our Sahuarita Police Department, and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Gavin Hammerquist, a first grade student at Sahuarita Primary School, a primary school owl, as they say, as their mascot over there. Commander?
Heavenly Father, we come before Thee this evening and give Thee thanks for this opportunity that we have to meet here at the council meeting for the town of Sahuarita. We're grateful for the blessings that we enjoy as members of this community, as employees, and we pray that Thou will bless the members of council tonight and those that present to council, that they will be blessed with Thy guidance and direction, the understanding they need to make the critical decisions that our council makes. We're grateful for the employees and for all those who serve this community, and pray that Thou continue to bless them. Bless our first responders and our military as they serve this community and our great country. And we pray for these things, Father, and do so in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Commander. You just go whenever you're ready.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Gavin. And I'll hereby suspend our town council meeting, commence with our Rancho Sahuarita Community Facilities District meeting. I'll hereby call to order our Rancho Sahuarita Community Facilities District meeting, and Madam Clerk, may I have a roll?
Board Member Bracco, absent. Board Member Davis.
Here.
Board Member Gillespie.
Here.
Board Member Priolo. Here. Board Member Morales. Here. Vice Chairperson Egbert. Here. Chairperson Murphy.
Here.
Quorum present.
Thank you. Item number 3 is called to the public. At this time, any member of the public is invited to address the district board on any issue which is on tonight's consent agenda or any issue which the district board can lawfully act upon at a future meeting. Pursuant to Arizona open meeting laws, the district board may not discuss the items, but individual members of the district board may respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the district board, may ask staff to review the matter, or may ask the matter to be placed on a future agenda. I don't have any cards over here. Anybody like to address the CFD board? Seeing no movement, I will close the call to public and move to item number 4, which is the consent agenda. At this time, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. And having no more further business, see, I promise quick, we're going to adjourn the CFD. And Madam Clerk, may I have a roll?
Councilmember Bracco, absent. Councilmember Davis.
Here.
Councilmember Gillespie.
Here.
Councilmember Morales. Councilmember Priolo. Here. Vice Mayor Egbert.
Here.
Mayor Murphy.
Here.
Quorum present.
Thank you. And the first order of business tonight is the selection of the mayor and vice mayor. So, Madam Clerk, if you'll read item number 5.
Discussion and possible selection of the mayor of the town of Sahuarita.
Thank you. And Mr. Palladini, our town attorney, will talk about the process as it's going on. But for the visitors in the audience, a lot of towns elect at large the mayor. Sahuarita doesn't. We run for the town council, and then every 2 years after every election cycle, we have a selection process for the mayor and vice mayor. So that's what Mr. Palladini is going to be talking
Mayor and council, your town code, section 2.10.010, says the following about the council members choosing a mayor. Each council member may nominate up to one member of the council as a candidate for mayor, and the nominated member shall indicate whether he or she is willing to serve After all council members have had an opportunity to nominate a candidate, those nominated who are willing to serve shall be considered the slate of candidates. Thereafter, by roll call vote, each council member shall vote for one person on the slate. The candidate who receives the affirmative vote of at least 4 council members shall be designated as the mayor. If no candidate receives the affirmative vote of at least 4 council members, no council member shall be designated as the mayor, and the council will follow this process again, beginning as provided in subsection A above of this section. The process will repeat until a council member is designated as mayor unless more than half the council members present vote to end the process and move to the next item on the agenda. The same process is used for selection of the vice mayor as well.
Thank you. That'll save us some time on the round 2 with the explanation. And we do this by random call of the town clerk. So, Miss Lisa, if you'd like to proceed.
Vice Mayor Egbert, do you have a nomination for mayor?
I nominate Tom Murphy as mayor.
Mayor Murphy, do you accept the nomination?
It would be an honor to continue to serve.
Thank you. Councilmember Morales, do you have a nomination for mayor? Councilmember Gillespie, do you have a nomination for mayor?
Tom, please.
Well, and you could, because I know
Or
both
maybe
are,
I'll
both are
pass.
new.
I'll pass.
You can just say, I have no nomination, if
No,
by
no.
chance your nomination is already on the floor.
I'll just pass then.
Councilmember Bracco is absent. Councilmember Davis, do you have a nomination for mayor? Councilmember Priolo, do you have a nomination for mayor?
Pass.
Mayor Murphy, do you have a
Pass.
nomination for mayor? Perfect. The slate of candidates is Tom Murphy for the position of mayor.
Thank you.
May I move on with the roll call for?
Yes, yes, you may.
Just a reminder, when you're voting, please name the person that you would like to be mayor. Mayor Murphy,
Mayor Murphy, Tom Murphy.
Councilmember Morales. Councilmember Priolo.
Tom Murphy.
Councilmember Davis. Councilmember Bracco is absent. Councilmember Gillespie.
Tom Murphy.
Vice Mayor Egbert.
Tom Murphy.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks
Mayor
for your
Murphy.
support. It's a joy to work with all of you, it really is. Thank you. Next item is the selection of vice mayor. Madam Clerk.
Discussion and possible selection of the vice mayor of the town of Sahuarita. Mayor Murphy, we will use the same process?
Yes. Thank you. And Mr. Palladini, it probably isn't necessary to repeat everything that you just said.
No, the same
correct?
process is used for vice mayor, mayor.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk?
Mayor Murphy, do you have a nomination for vice mayor?
Kara Egbert?
Vice Mayor Egbert, do you accept the nomination?
I do.
Councilmember Priolo, do you have a nomination for vice mayor?
Pass.
Councilmember Morales, do you have a nomination for vice mayor? Councilmember Davis, do you have a nomination for vice mayor? Vice Mayor Egbert, do you have a nomination for vice mayor?
I actually was thinking, but I'll pass.
Councilmember Gillespie, do you have a nomination for vice mayor?
I'll pass.
And Councilmember Bracco is absent. The slate of candidates for vice mayor is Kara Egbert. We'll now move on to the roll call for the election or selection of the vice mayor. Councilmember Priolo. Councilmember Bracco is absent. Councilmember Davis. Mayor Murphy.
Tom Murphy? No, I'm teasing. Kara Egbert. Sure.
Councilmember Gillespie.
Kara Egbert.
Councilmember Morales. Vice Mayor Egbert.
Kara Egbert.
Congratulations. Vice Mayor Egbert has been elected.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if that's support for us or this, them not wanting to do the extra work. I'm just not sure.
We'll take it as a compliment on there.
Mayor,
And-
Mayor,
yes.
I hope I can just jump in real quick.
Yes.
As an outsider coming in to this organization and seeing this process play out, it just it overwhelms me with a sense of pride. Honestly, I've served in Arizona for more than 22 years now in public service and working for a variety of different organizations. And I can tell you that what just transpired here in this organization is special. It's unique. And I think that it brings an element of collaboration to the council that is our strength, really. So it doesn't, I'm not speaking to the names that were put forward necessarily, but the process itself is what I really was speaking to. And that is going to generate an outcome that is going to continue to propel this community and this organization into a promising future. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you. And I tried to get 2 extra votes for each of our positions, but I haven't been successful. We only get 1 vote either way, so it works really well on there. That was a joke for the visitors. And we have a very special presentation tonight. Darren Venters, Chair Emeritus of the Arizona Committee Employer Support of the Garden Reserve, that's a mouthful, I've known Darren for many, many years, is presenting an award to Sergeant Medina and the ESGR's Above and Beyond Award to the town of Sahuarita. So we're very grateful that all of you are here. It's an additional special honor because Major General Whitehead is in the front row of the audience. I was going to rub it into Bill Bracco, my council member general, because he's Army. But you see, he heard 2 Air Force people were going to be here, so he ran away. He was a little ill this evening. But it's really quite an honor. When I was reading a little bit about you, and as I mentioned to you earlier tonight, he was the first African-American pilot to fly the U-2, which is a spy plane. From many years ago. And when I joined the Air Force, I was an avionics technician, and my job was to fix the reconnaissance cameras, the spy cameras, on the U-2 and the SR-71 and the RF-4C, which is a reconnaissance version of the F-4, which makes me very old, not the Major General, me, on that, because when you go back to the F-4, now we're talking Vietnam. And post on there. So it's a distinct pleasure to have you here to participate in this presentation. And if this time, Darren, I'll join you at the podium.
Well, thank you very much. This is a distinct honor to be here tonight to address the council and the audience that's here. On behalf of the Employer Support for the Garden Reserve, along with me tonight is General Whitehead, which the mayor's already spoken to, Sally Cady and Dan Cady, who are 2 of our volunteers that live here in the Green Valley area, Sahuarita area. Dan and Sally really run the American Legion 131. So if you're there for tacos or for hamburgers, that's your host. So moving on with the Employer Support for the Garden Reserve, it is really a pleasure to be here tonight to present this. Just a little bit about ESGR, those of you who don't know what it is. We're a part of the Department of Defense. We've got about 2,800, 3,000 volunteers across the country, and a very, very small paid staff. The rest are volunteers like we have here tonight that work the country. But our end goal is for employers to appreciate and value the service that their employees, that they share the employees with the rest of this great country. So we have 3 major things that we do as ESGR. We have, first of all, employer outreach, which is kind of what we call this tonight, is employer outreach, reaching out to employers. We provide training for employers as well. Military outreach is to go into Guard and Reserve units and brief the members on what their responsibility is to their employers. We also can talk about employers' responsibilities, but we go into the units so that they know what their responsibility is to their employers. So when they have a deployment, we'll have a team goes out and lets them know what what's going on. So we have ombudsman who will mediate differences with their boss and their work. So that's kind of the third leg. But we get to the really exciting part of ESGR is employer awards and recognition. I mean, what kind of a better deal can you have to go out and make presentations to awards? We have a series of awards, and tonight we're going to deal with the first level of awards. So if we'd have Sergeant Medina and Sergeant Perez come up, General Whitehead, if you'd come up and join us here. Sergeant Perez said that during his field training, he was called to service by the National Guard multiple times, and my annual training required me to be absent for 30 consecutive days. During that time, Sergeant Medina was my direct supervisor and coordinator. He worked my schedule and often checked with me during and after my training. Sergeant Medina made sure that I was reintegrated back into the program each time I returned from training, providing me with ample time to recover and reset for military leave. As a result, Sergeant Medina's support of my military obligation, I nominated him for the Patriot Award through the Employer Support for the Guard and Reserve. Okay. That is the Patriot Award, and I think also he passed a pin, a Patriot pin, to Sergeant Medina. Wear that pin proudly. That's good. So, General Whitehead, I think you had a challenge award. Well, a challenge award, for those of you don't know, it all started out in the old days that you take the challenge. If you didn't have a challenge award to put out on the bar, you got to buy the round for the whole bar. So, but it's morphed into a lot more than that. Today, the challenge award is significant, and it's passed on from the holder to another to show that their resolve and the integrity that goes along with that. So this is a very beautiful coin that General Whitehead has. It's significant because it talks about or shows his time in the U-2. And I think most of you know that the U-2 was an airplane that penetrated space that wasn't supposed to be penetrated. Okay. Okay, thank you. And the next award is the ESGR's Above and Beyond Award. The Above and Beyond Award is presented by the ESGR, by the State Committee, to recognize employers at the local level who've gone above and beyond their responsibility, the guardsmen and reservists that are employed there. It goes far more than just meeting the legal responsibilities. It's here, you know, the town has contributed so much over the years to the Guard and Reserve. And I just kind of went back through my notes, some of the things that happened. In 2009, a proclamation was signed by the mayor, Mayor Skelton at the time, supporting the Guard and Reserve. In 2011, a proclamation was issued then by Mayor Bloomberg. And at the time, a statement of support was provided. In 2013, and I'm sorry I don't have a name, but a member of your HR staff here was dealing with a Navy reservist trying to get paid, and she just went to an extraordinary lengths communicating with the Department of Navy and to make sure that this person got duly recognized and duly paid, and that, you know, certainly took a lot of her time, but she really did the right thing to get that done. Back in 2013, Matthew McClone was nominated by Sean, and I won't try to pronounce it, it's a Patze. I don't know, do any of you remember those folks? You do? All right, so a long memory here. So that is just, a bit, just a touch of some of the sports you've done here. The F-35, when it was being proposed, the town of Sahuarita got right behind that. Well, the 162nd Fighter Wing doesn't have F-35s, but it certainly wasn't because they lacked the support from the town of Sahuarita. So, Mr. Mayor, here is the Above and Beyond Award. And yes, if you would, yes, please. So that's a beautiful award. Got to have a photo op there.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
I also have my challenge coin, someone that's really special, since we never had an opportunity to go TV-wide again. But it would have been very.
That would have been a good party, I'm just saying.
Thank you for your service, and thank you for doing as mayor and what you're doing for the support.
Thank you, gentlemen.
That's for you.
Now, the next we have here, and if Dan will bring it up, we have a statement of support. I hope you have the pen.
I do. Hopefully it's the right color. It won't be as nice as probably that there, but.
Now, I bet none of you have ever got the mayor to sign anything that easy.
Oh, yeah, they're
thank
my
you.
colleagues. We work well together. Thank you for being here. I
Well,
really
you're very
appreciate it.
welcome, and we appreciate everything that the town has done, everything that you've done, and we're looking forward to many, many years of good support again. So,
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thanks for being here.
You bet.
Appreciate it. All right. Well, now we get back to the mundane things. It's going to kind of go downhill from there. Item number 8 is called to the public. At this time, any member of the public is invited to address the town council on any issue which is on tonight's consent agenda or any issue which the town council can lawfully act upon at a future meeting. Pursuant to Arizona open meeting laws, the council may not discuss the items, but individual members of the council may respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the council, may ask staff to review the matter, or may ask the matter be placed on a future agenda item. No speaker cards. Anybody like to address the council? Seeing no movement, I'll declare the call public closed and move on to brief summary of council member current events. Dr. Gillespie, you have anything for this evening?
No.
Kara?
Just today, Debbie and I were able to judge the town's door competition for Christmas. And the competition was fierce. And I debated on even bringing this up, but the current status is that there's only going to be a first place winner. And I am putting forth now that there needs to be at least a second place winner. So that was what my council reports and brief summary is. I'm not putting a motion if we're not voting on it because it's not on the agenda.
Vice Mayor, there's a lot of pressure on this, so if I could get something to that effect in writing from you, I'd be happy to make something happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie?
I just wanted to congratulate the 49er 8U team. Their cheer team actually went to nationals and they took 5th in the nation.
Wow.
They competed Saturday and moved into Sunday, so they're all at Disney World right now, where I should be, the happiest place on earth. But
I thought that was always Sahuarita in your mind.
second.
Okay.
But shout out to their coach, Judy Ortiz. She did an awesome job with these little girls. That's it.
Simon? Debbie? Nope. You have anything?
So I was invited by the Litter Patrol of our champion citizens to pick up trash. in Sahuarita, and I saw with my own eyes what their passion was and what the issues are. So I'm acting as a bridge to help this grassroots effort to maybe make an alliance between the Litter Patrol and the Sahuarita Food Bank and perhaps some of the builders that are building houses to collect cardboard boxes to benefit the food bank. They get $50 for every bale. So we've met with the executive director of the Sahuarita Food Bank, and it was a very positive meeting. And I've gone to the HOA of where I live in a retirement community, and they are on board for letting new residents know that instead of recycling, they can actually bring cardboard boxes to the food bank and meet Captain Crunch, the big machine that squashes all the boxes. So $50 a bale, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3, Saturday, 1 to 3 also. So join in the effort. Thank you.
Thank you. I had a couple of items. I was able to attend Shop with a Cop event this last Friday, and it was the first time. We've always had thank you to the Rangers, Arizona Rangers, and our PD, but they also had for the first time some sheriff officers that participated. So this is kind of how we roll in Sahuarita. We partner with others and collaborate on that. So thanks for all the hard work on setting that up. I also attended the check distribution, the White Elephant. Does everybody know what the White Elephant is? I'm sure. In our town in Green Valley. They gave out $1.495 million. And it started with a card table in the 60s. I think they said it was $140 they raised that one first time. And the preponderance of the money goes to the services and the support agencies in the town of Sahuarita. Our PD was there. That check goes towards the Explorers and the VIPs, Volunteer and Police Service. The school districts, almost every school gets about $30,000. It ranges from high school to primary school. The Salvation Army, we're looking for ringers, for the bell ringers for the Salvation Army. I'm on their advisory board. And the food bank, it just goes on and on. But to think that they're selling $2 for a shirt and $3 for a pair of pants, and in 1 year they raised $1.4 million. It's an extraordinary collaboration between the Green Valley, for the most part, volunteers, and our younger community of Sahuarita. So that was just a distinct pleasure. We had 3 grand openings. The Sahuarita Food Bank, as I mentioned earlier, it's a new facility. We had a beautiful facility, and not only is it a food bank, it's also a community resource center. So I always kind of refer to the analogy that food banks in general, it's like giving a fish, with a community resource center is actually teaching you how to fish and try to get you out of that cycle. So that was exciting. And then Arizona AZOMS, it's an oral surgeon, and Dr. Jaws, which is orthodontist. Dr. Jaws is actually his name, James Weaver. So someone came up with a good acronym for that. The 17th, which will probably, this Saturday will be mentioned maybe a little bit later tonight as well, is our big winter festival celebration. We start with a marketplace. We have a lighted parade. We're going to light the tree, ice sculpting. It's fireworks after the lighting of the tree. Another great community event. And to put all rumors to rest, the road to Quail Creek, as we like to call it, will be opening on the 21st of December. So we might actually, and all of our Quail Creek, Madeira Highland Stonehouse residents on the east side are very excited about that. And I think we might actually have some surprise visitors, if I'm not mistaken. And it might have, it's not the Easter Bunny, but it might have something to do with Christmas on there. But we're very excited about bringing that road to completion, and it's going to be an exciting addition to our infrastructure in the town of Sahuarita. That's all I had. Our next regular meeting is January 23rd, but we have our retreat on the 5th and the 6th of January, and I think a possible special meeting on January 9th. I'll have to let our town manager confirm that, or?
Yeah, I'll do that right now. We are planning to schedule a study session with council on January 9th. That makes for a pretty heavy few days for the council. But looking at the schedule for January, that seemed to make most sense for the public instead of trying to call a special meeting that odd week in the month. On the agenda for your study session will be the CIP discussion about the impacts of inflation and reprioritization. We need some direction from council on how to proceed. And then also an intro to an ongoing conversation that will start there and move into the rest of this next fiscal year. But it has to do with the need we have statutorily to update our general plan.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And that concludes any last remarks before I move on? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, item number 10.
Town Manager's Report highlighting employee and department accomplishments, capital improvement projects, development projects, and town events.
Thank you. Mr. Dilly. I'm assuming the celebration is just going to continue.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I appreciate this opportunity every month to be able to highlight the town manager's report here in a public forum like this. Obviously, there's a lot more detail in the report itself, and there's strong encouragement for the public to access that report via either the town manager's page on the town's website, or the council packet has it contained within. So it is a privilege to do this once a month, and to bring the public and you as a council up to speed on some of the higher activities, the bigger activities for staff. We'll jump in. The first section of our manager's report, we break highlight down for all of our employees and their anniversaries. We have that broken down into 4 categories: the 1 through 4 years, the 5 through 9 years, the 10 to 14 year, and the 15 plus year. We don't actually have any employees in the 10 to 14 year, but we do have 4 that we're recognizing tonight. All 4 of these individuals are celebrating their 1-year anniversary this month, December. We've got Jaime Alarcon, wastewater mechanic. We've got Joseph Ornelis, recreation service leader. We've got Austin Campbell, recreation coordinator, and we've got Rosemary Casido, recreation services aide. So congratulations, you guys. 1 year is not insignificant, and we really appreciate all you do for the community. We've got one individual. I think you know this person. Our chief of police, John Nolan, is being recognized tonight for his 8th year with the town. Chief, really appreciate. Where are you, Chief?
He's waving from the outside.
Really appreciate all Chief does for us in spearheading our public safety branch of our public service. Thank you, Chief. And finally, we do have an individual we are wanting to recognize tonight. Juan Zamora is one of our lieutenants. Juan, there you are.
Well,
Come on in.
That's a good entrance,
Yeah,
right? All right on
perfect
cue.
entrance. Yeah, he definitely knows how to come in. Commander Allred has this to say about Lieutenant Zamora. Lieutenant Zamora is the life of the party. He enjoys building relationships with his staff and other departments. He works hard to build camaraderie within the organization. He has served in multiple positions throughout the organization and always worked to leave the assignment better than when he started. It has been a lot of fun to work with him over the years. I will add, before we invite Lieutenant Zamora up to the podium, or maybe as I'm saying this, Lieutenant, you can come on up. Not sure he really wanted to, but I'm not giving him a choice. I had the opportunity to also be at the Shop with a Cop event on Friday morning, and Lieutenant Zamora spent a few minutes with me. I got to know him a little bit better, and just a wealth of experience and
Knowledge.
I was getting there. Juan.
And he's humble too.
And he's extremely humble. But it was just a real joy to get to know you a little bit better, Juan, and I appreciate those few minutes you spent with me. So please give us a few thoughts on your experience here with the town and the organization, and allow us to celebrate this landmark of 18 years with us.
Well, thank you for putting me on the spot. Commander Roberts never told me any of that. Thank you. Well, I mean, thank you for your continued support, Council, for continuing in the entire 18 years that I've been here to support the police department. Mayor Murphy, you and I have had a chance to build a relationship. We're on the retirement board together, and
Right.
I think you attend more police functions than I do. It's been good to meet you all over the last couple of years. Ms. Morales, I think I'm here because of you. When we worked in South Tucson together, and I don't remember if it was you or Leanne that actually printed out the application for me to come here and told me, hey, fill this out, go turn it in. And, I think I was here within about 6 weeks, already in a different uniform, so thank you. I'm blessed to have gotten the opportunity to work here and to serve here. The town has been extremely supportive. It's afforded me the opportunity to provide for my family like I never thought I would. So thank you all very much for that. And to the one of you that I helped when you ran out of gas in front of Fry's, I still remember, but I will not mention it, so as not to embarrass the vice mayor. I have pictures.
The only time I've ever run out of gas was in front of Fry's in a farm vehicle, and he was.
And for the first time, there was a cop around when you needed one.
Right.
Oh my God.
So,
I'll take those pictures, though.
but thank you all very, very much. It's been an honor to work and to serve here. So, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Lieutenant.
Am I dismissed?
Dismiss her.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. That was awesome. You didn't even have to say anything, Vice Mayor. Your head went down immediately, and that was awesome. Mayor and Council will jump into some updates, major highlights from our departments. Again, this is in summary fashion, more detail in the report itself. The police department in November was finally able to get both of their robo-dogs named. November's efforts was to name award or decide on a winning boy name. That name is Roby, and so we're excited to have that done. It came from a student from Anza Trail, Adeline Quinterove, I think is the name. Also, they had on November 4th their annual National Night Out event, and that was well attended. A lot of good experiences there. On the Parks and Rec side, we do have the Winterfest coming up on December 17th here at Town Hall. You see the lighting already up. It's going to be quite a wonderful experience. Most of the day is going to be dedicated to that event, and so look forward to seeing you guys there. We've got over 20 food trucks, 15 vendors, 36 parade entries. Altogether, over 400 participants are on the slate to engage, and so we're looking forward to that event. A heavy lift by our recreation staff, no doubt. Also, Parks and Rec is looking to create a sponsorship team to contact organizations concerning sponsorship opportunities with the organization. The Animax sewer extension project was completed also in November. Planning and building, continued efforts to reach out to the public, the community regarding the residential zone updates. Really, Anna and her team are hitting the ground. They're not just putting things out social media or email. They're getting out to these events. They're going to parks. They're going to public places, pitching, putting up a table and engaging people and just making sure that the word gets out on what we're looking to do with the proposed residential zone updates. They've also provided in the report some holiday safety tips for the public to be aware of. Sometimes people like to have the real Christmas trees, and you got to be sensitive about how to work those trees with lights and so on and so forth, so we don't have an unfortunate accident. We'll note that for building permits, single-family home permits are down. It's not a surprise. We're hearing that in the press. We're talking with developers, local developers. Everybody's experiencing this across the region as I engage with my counterparts in other communities. So just to put it into perspective, this year's budget we assumed that we would process 481 new single-family home permits. With the new numbers coming in, we have a new estimate that we're going to hit the 300 mark, not the 481. We are pleased to report that permit activity in other categories remains extremely strong, and we are seeing other general fund revenues performing better than anticipated. It was either today or yesterday you received, I guess it was today because it's Monday, you received an updated TPT report from AC that showed that our general fund is tracking pretty well, all things considered. But we are monitoring these single-family home permits as an indicator of what we anticipate to be coming, and that's a recession in some form or fashion. So stay tuned with that, but know that your staff is monitoring it really closely. On the economic development side of things, our economic development team has reached out to now 38 new business license holders in the town of Sahuarita. They're doing that through the Grow in Sahuarita Small Business Program, just to kind of reach out, make sure that the businesses are aware of the various services that they can take advantage of through not only our own economic development department, but the Sahuarita Green Valley Chamber of Commerce and our Biz Hub Center here at Town Hall. Also highlighted in the report, Sylvan Source, a BizLaunch sponsor tech startup that we have sponsored as a town, was selected as a winner of the 2022 Governor's Celebration of Innovation Award. That's called out in the report, kind of exciting. And then just an update from economic development, we have hit the streets with an RFP process to bring about an update to our master plan, economic development master plan. So that process has started, and we'll be bringing the results of that RFP to you as a council for award at some point in the near future. Our SOS team has been active and engaged. We had a chili cook-off event in November, and maybe that was December, actually. Is that November or December? November? First part of November? Anyway, okay. Anyway, it was a great, all I can remember is the chili. It was
last
great.
10 days.
The chili was awesome. A lot of people participated. We had over 60 employees there and engaged, and just helped bring the great spirit of camaraderie. We also had an annual food drive to support the Sahuarita Food Bank. In the report, it calls out that we more than doubled this year our food donation contribution to what we did last year, and we did it in like 10 days. So it was a great turnout. A lot of team pride involved in trying to fill those bins, and we did a great job, I think. Finally, where's Laura? Laura, come on. Last week, the leadership and extended leadership teams provided Laura with a couple of signed cards and a lovely vase of flowers as we said our goodbyes to her during our final leadership meeting with her. Laura's last day with the town will be this Wednesday, December 14th. That makes obviously tonight Laura's last council meeting with the town of Sahuarita. Not her last council meeting, to say the least, in her career, but at least with us, our last council meeting with her. And I wanted to just go off script a little bit and have her come up to the podium. So it allows us to give thanks to her and allows her to share any perspectives she has with us as an outgoing member of our leadership team.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Laura.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for the opportunity to serve with you in this community. It's been a wonderful experience, and a year and a half ago, we were struggling in our department, and to see the growth that's happened over the last year and a half, and the incredible support you as council give to our events and our programs, and it has just been amazing. It's, as Mr. Dilly was reading about Winterfest, this was a few weeks ago when we put together this report, and since then, we now have 50 entries in the parade. 675 participants will be in the parade. We have over 30 vendors that are coming in for the marketplace. We have about 22 food vendors. So it's almost doubled in size since that report. And it's going to be wonderful and amazing. And I think the thing that I'm most proud of is this amazing team that we have put together of these bright, beautiful people that are doing amazing things for our community. And so I wanted to say thank you. My family, we are sad but excited at the same time. But thank you for all your support. Thank you for all that you've allowed me to accomplish here, and please take care of my people. They're amazing, and I truly love them. They have become family, and this has been such a wonderful experience. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Laura. And, one of my first vivid memories is when we were planting trees. And there was this person just down in the dirt and digging this hole and whipping this tree around. And that was my first actual real memory. And you're correct. The team that you helped put together has been amazing. I got to hang out with them during El Tour. And I think it's one of the first times in a while that you were up to full strength, not only in numbers, but I would say in quality as well. You can tell they really care about the community, as I know you do. It's been an honor. And the only person that's sadder than me is my 92-year-old mother, who has had a chance to meet her a few times. She's here for the winter. When she came back for the winter and I told her you were moving, I think she was going to recall me as mayor. And I'm like, she's going to be with family. I'm sorry. But I hope you take, the positiveness that you have given to us and helped us here and take that with you. But to think, from Twin Buttes to Parcel 30 to our signature events, opening our eyes to sponsorship opportunities, just it goes on and on and on. And you were the captain of the ship during this time, and in a very short period of time, you have made a significant difference. I know we'll be talking about the citizen survey pretty soon, and it's a lot of the positiveness has come from you. So I just wanted to say thanks, and anybody else that would like to weigh in, go ahead.
I do. I told today I was in Laura's office until I object, and she didn't listen.
Can we make a motion?
My background is in Parks and Recreation, and so I can usually tell very quickly if somebody has the heart of somebody that loves Parks and Recreation. The first time I got to know Laura, I learned a special skill that she has that, forgive me if I'm wrong, if it's a front loader or
It's a backhoe. Yeah.
Backhoe. Laura has the gift of being able to take a boulder on a backhoe and throw it in the air and catch it with a backhoe. So talents you don't know you had on your staff. But I believe strongly that everything Laura touches turns to gold. Like every event that she participated in came out better with a greater scope, with a different vision that allowed us to reach a different capacity. And she will be greatly missed here at the town of Sahuarita.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again for everything you've done for our community. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Of course, we wish her all the best in her new adventure up in the state of Washington with the community of Richmond. Beautiful community, and I know the city manager up there, and I told him I'll get even somehow,
Right.
some way. But it's a wonderful community, and I know that it'll be enhanced and blessed by Laura's presence on that team. So, Mayor, jumping in, in council, a couple of updates on capital projects. Mary, you already spoke to the groundbreaking, I'm sorry, the grand opening, not groundbreaking.
No,
Big
get me in
difference.
trouble.
We're not going backwards.
Thank you.
The grand opening taking place on December 21st at noon there at Quail Crossing. Very excited to have this. We are engaging on trying to get a PSA out on safety tips for folks that want to use that route with their golf carts.
Yep.
So we'll get that PSA out. I know that we've already got an update on our website. We're developing a QR code to put signs out on the roads so that people have access to that information. But we'll get a PSA and a video out. So hopefully sometime soon. But it's coming along really well, and we're excited about it.
If you want to throw me in a golf cart and we can drive down there, the do's and the don'ts, I'm open for that.
We might have you on that,
Okay.
on that video, Mayor. And then on the Twin Buttes Public Works building, we expect to have the bids in for the building part on the 21st of December. And so that'll play into some of our conversation at your CIP study session on January 9th. Okay. That said, I think that walks us through, and happy to answer any questions that you might have about the report.
Council members have any questions? Nope. Very thorough as always. Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
it. Item number 11 is the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
So moved.
All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Madam Clerk, item number 12.
Discussion and possible approval to amend the Streets Department budget in the Highway User Revenue Fund, appropriating $232,740 of available fund balances for use on the Pavement Preservation Program.
Well, I had down as Miss Abramovitz must have grown a beard since I last met.
Sorry to
have seen her.
Good evening,
Good to
Mr.
have you
Mayor.
here, Carlos. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. My name is Carlos Suarez. I'm the construction and GIS manager for the town of Sahuarita. Public Works is requesting to amend the Streets Department budget to account for additional costs that were incurred for this fiscal year's pavement preservation projects. This year, we were able to complete 3 projects within the town. The 3 neighborhoods we performed this work in were the Presidio de las Estrellas neighborhood, Valle Verde del Norte, and La Jolla Verde. The Presidio de las Estrellas and La Jolla Verde neighborhoods were the 2 projects that the additional cost occurred in. Both of those were mill and fill projects, and that's where we take the top 1.5 inches of the asphalt off and replace it with hopefully another 1.5 inches. So there are 4 factors that contributed to the cost increase for this. The first one was the milling portion overran due to the difference in the amount on the original bid versus the amount of that was actually measured in the field. So in order to avoid this in the future, we'll go ahead and double check our quantities with the contractors prior to issuing any contracts, of course, and then just make sure that those numbers are real tight and close so that we don't overrun on that item. So that increased the budget by approximately $15,000. The second portion was when we were milling the project, we overran in the tonnage of asphalt that we put back in place. We had issues in multiple locations with the sub-base failing. And so when we initially were going to take 1.5 inches off, we ended up putting 3 inches back because it all just fell apart. And so that increased the tonnage of asphalt by quite a lot. That was about $122,000 that we went over. Then the original proposal was generated in early of '22, and we didn't complete the work until October of this year. And the contract contains provisions for the bituminous price adjustment if it has to happen. And that bituminous prices, they're closely tied to the prices of fuel. So with those costs increased, the price of the asphalt went up. And that went up approximately $69,000. And then the last factor that attributed to the increase was the utilities that were in the way. Prior to paving, you have to lower them, and then you pave over them and raise them back. Those quantities were off as well. So that's another item we'll have to double check in the future with the utility companies, the contractors, just to make sure that we're right on with that number. And that was an additional $34,000. approximately. We did save $8,600 on a few other items, if that counts for anything. So I would like to note that one of the items on the town strategic plan is to increase the overall OCI across the town. All three of the projects that we completed did increase the OCI in each neighborhood, so there's benefit to what we did.
Which is the overall condition index.
Yes, sir, I'm sorry, that's the
okay.
pavement rating of asphalt.
Beth teaches me that all the time, because I forget.
And there's a new map for that coming out.
Okay, good.
So it did increase the OCI overall, so we're getting closer to that goal of having a OCI rating of 80 on average throughout the town. With that, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, thank you for your time. Do you have any questions?
No, thank you. I just had one quick comment, and it'll probably be presented at the January 9th meeting, but when Shane and I were at the last PAG RTA meeting, we were presented by the builders, not the residential builders, infrastructure builders, Arizona Transportation Builders, asphalt, pipe, it just goes on and on. 100% increase, 70%. I think one was 300.
One was 304%.
304%. So, obviously, this is something that, we're going to have to deal with not only on this project, but I just wanted to say, because we did commit to that overall condition index, you only get to do it once correctly, and there's always unforeseen things that happen. So I'm glad that at least we're taking that approach to do it correctly, which obviously will save money, I believe, in the future. But certainly inflation, we're going to be having multiple conversations in the future on inflation and how that impacts it. So thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Before we get into, questions, I just wanted to underscore, of course, some of this is inflation. The contractor had a right through the contract to mark things up, based off of the inflationary impacts that we're seeing. A big part of this, some of it was underestimates in terms of what we actually experienced out there. But the lion's share of this cost overrun is tied to the unforeseens. And
Right.
while we can certainly put contingencies in place, and we absolutely do that, there's only so much you can do about the unforeseens. You get out there and you start milling a road, and you think that there's 3 inches of asphalt, and there's really only 1 inch, and you hit dirt. You can't put asphalt over that. You can, but you're only asking for a couple of years of life out of that investment.
Right.
So you really have to get in, and you have to treat the base. You have to put a proper base in, and all of that takes money that you didn't anticipate. There's also other unforeseens in there. There's utility pipes that aren't marked right. The depths aren't right, or what have you. So the lion's share of this expense is those unforeseens, and it is what it is.
No, and I also appreciated the comment about, in the future, we can, nail down the GIS a little bit more. So that continued improvement process, I think, is really good, because, we learn, and when we learn, we try to do better the next time. So I appreciate that. Anybody have any questions before I move to a motion?
No, but I wanted to say thank you, because I also appreciated that you came up with interventions to improve the process for a better outcome, and you were Johnny on the spot with it, and I like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
If not, I'll entertain a motion at this time. It'll be in our, yeah.
Okay. I move to amend the Streets Department budget and the Highway User Revenue Fund, appropriating $232,740. There we go. Available fund balances for use on the pavement preservation program.
And I'll second it. I'd like to second that. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Beth. Madam Clerk, item number 13.
Discussion and possible appointment to the Board of Adjustment.
Thank you. Councilmember Davis, would you like to introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dennis Badinsky, who actually lives up in Quail Creek, has an impressive resume. He's actually sat on several boards in his previous community. So with that, I would like to move to appoint Dennis Badinsky to the Board of Adjustments to fill an unexpired term on June 30th, 2024.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And I know he couldn't be here this evening.
He's got a medical issue going on.
Yep, but if at a future agenda or a council meeting, if you'd like to invite him, I always let them have, say a few words, but totally up to him. Tell him we'll pay him really well, whether he comes here or not. Madam Clerk, item number 14.
Presentation and discussion regarding the results of the citizen survey.
Thank you. And Mr. Gonzalez, our Economic Development and Public Affairs Director, will introduce the item. And we have Mary Raleigh, CEO, and Steve Lynn, Chief Strategy Officer from Newport Marketing, who have been waiting here very patiently, hearing all this good news, which I think will dovetail into some of these citizen surveys. Victor?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I won't steal the thunder and leave us in suspense. So, yes, the New Point team will walk us through the survey. Just want to share a couple points about the survey itself. We had the survey open through the month of November, so roughly about 4 weeks, give or take, and we had a little over 750 responses, which was more than what was our minimum goal of 600. So with that, I'll turn it over to the New Point team, and they'll walk us through the results of the survey.
Thank you. Thanks for being here this evening, and thanks for working with us.
Thank you. Enjoy it. Okay, I will kick us off with the survey. And review the objectives. It was to get a sense of residents' opinions of the town as a place to live, satisfaction with local government, get their views on growth and infrastructure here in the town, perceptions of safety here, and assess their opinions of the different service departments within the town. As Victor said, we got more than 750, we got 760 responses exactly in a statistically valid survey. We distributed it online via flyers with a QR code and a link, email, digital ads, and the town's social media, and it all kicked off with Spooktacular. That was when we started handing out the flyers. We were in the field for the month of November, and our confidence level on the results is 95% with a 3.5% margin of error. What that means is if we were to repeat this survey 100 times, 95 times out of 100, we get the same results in terms of the margin of error. And that's a good percentage for that. So I'm going to start and give you a sense of the demographics. We asked people how long did they live within the town or not. We did not kick anybody out of the survey if they didn't. But as you can see, 96% of the respondents did live in the town, and we had a tiny fraction, actually 0.5%, that weren't sure where they lived. So that was a whole 4 people. I hope they figured that out at some point. Then we asked people what neighborhood they lived in, and the top neighborhoods were Rancho Saurita and Madera Highland. And you can see we had representation from a wide range of neighborhoods. And of those who said other, 31.6% of those included Saurita Highlands. Then we looked at gender, and this is statistically balanced for the demographic makeup of the town, and you can see it's about half and half, and then 2% that didn't want to tell us. In the area of age, the largest group was 35 to 44, followed by 45 to 54, but we had a good range of different ages of people who participated, and a small group that didn't want to tell us how old they were. The respondents were heavily leaning toward being married, 84%, 12% single, and 4% that didn't want to tell us. Then we looked at home ownership, and by far, 91%, the largest representation was among those who own, 6% rent, and the others didn't want to answer that question. in terms of income, the largest group had a household income of 100,000 or more, and that was almost 36% of the people who responded. Then we looked at the town as a place to live. What did people think of that? And we listed a lot of different options for people, such as a place to raise a family, to work, buy a home, recreational activities. And the highest rankings were for home and life. People saying that it's very good or good place to raise a family and buy a home. So people love it here. The critical areas, and this will play out in subsequent questions, and based on prior surveys that we did is no surprise, business-related areas such as a place to work or place for business. And to give you that, this survey was a little different this year than some that we've done. We've been doing surveys for the town since 2013. So where we could, we compared questions, but we only compared them if they were exact. If they were close, you can get into trouble if you try to do that. I thought this was a particularly interesting slide because if you look at the town as a place to work and a place to participate in social events, you could see the results increasing. The opposite occurred with a place to buy a home, but that echoes what Shane was saying about interest rates and inflation and everything else that's going on in the world. So that made a lot of sense to us.
In general, I was really appreciative of the fact that now we're tracking 13, 18, because I thought that was very significant, that as we keep going to see these trends,
Yeah.
and if we weren't comparing one against the other, it would be really hard. So I really appreciated that. Right.
Yeah, I thought so too. Okay. Then we asked people, what are the 3 things that make the town of Sahuarita great? And they could pick, select 3. And neighborhoods, the size of the community, and the infrastructure, including roads, parks, etc., were the top 3 there. Again, all positive things for the town. Then we asked them the flip side, which are the 3 biggest challenges or negatives to living and working here. And people want more restaurants, more retail, and more employment opportunities. Again,
There's a shocker.
Familiar theme, I know. So then we'll do another comparison, and it was the 3 biggest challenges that we compared. And just a footnote here, in 2015 and 2018, one of the options listed was availability of adequate water. That was not asked this time. Okay. So I just wanted to point that out in this survey. But you can see there's some retail, keeps coming up again. It's a theme. And then lastly, we asked them an open-ended question: what do they think the town should be known for? And again, a very familiar theme. Top things were family-friendly, safety, and the community and neighbors. So some good results there. With that, I will hand it over to my buddy Steve.
Thanks, Mayor. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, really appreciate being here. And as Mary said, with the longevity of doing the work for the town, we really enjoy it because this town has grown in a most responsible way, and we know that as you move forward, you'll continue to grow in a responsible way. What we try to do is give you some guidelines that the public is interested in for that guidance. The next section of the report is really kind of a report card on the government of the community, and I want to be sure that you take all of this in because it's very good information, but it's also very good news in terms of your report card. The first thing we asked here was, how do you access information? One of the reasons we ask this is to give staff as well as others the ability to zero in on those methods of communication that work best for the community. And as you can see, the favored methodology, social media, and I would say parenthetically, unfortunately, because there are an awful lot of downsides with social media because you can't control the message that you might have out there, but as a channel of communication for the town, clearly something that people use and continue to use. They also divide their information based on word of mouth. And so as you have ambassadors and cheerleaders in the community, that permeates the community and people hear it and understand it. So let's take a look at some of the results. The next question we asked was, do you believe the government of the town of Sahuarita generally acts in the best interest of the community? And here we've given you a two-part snapshot. In 2018, the number of people who generally agreed with that, said yes, was about 53%. That has actually grown. It's up 9% over the 2018 number. That's good news for the community and for the government. Those who don't know, down 9%, meaning your communication efforts are beginning to bear fruit. And you've got about a 15% curmudgeon list.
Yeah.
That those who, when you ask about government, they're going to tell you what's wrong with government. And that's about typical. Next, we asked the question, what types of things would you like to know more about from your local government? And certainly they would like to know about new businesses, particularly all the restaurants that are going to open.
Yes.
That'll be a recurring theme, because if you want to say something about Sahuarita, they do like to eat and they would like more choices. Clearly, that's something that in the economic development sphere of things, you would like to have more choice in your dining pleasure in Sahuarita. And the other thing is community events, and certainly whether it's Winterfest or any of the other things that you do as a community, this community enjoys the opportunity to get together, coming out of their neighborhoods into a more generalized space and enjoying one another. And they do that regularly, and it's a great feeling. Next, we ask the question, based on your experience, if you would evaluate the overall performance of the government. And either excellent or good was over 60%. Now, I've worked with a lot of communities in my career, and almost any community I've worked with would love to have these numbers. And I will tell you that the thing that is significant about this particular graph is that many people, when you ask them about government, the best they can do is say, it's fair, it's okay, it's all right, it doesn't bother me much. But the fair number and the excellent number are identical, and most people feel as though the town is doing a good job. So let's move on to the growth in the infrastructure in Sahuarita. The next question we posed was, do you support growth? This community, like many others in southern Arizona, has gone through phases of growth, no growth, structured growth, planned growth, wild growth, all of the things that have happened over many years of your existence. And what people here are saying is they understand and approve of the town growing. That's very important, because it means that things that will come up on your agenda and that Victor and others on the staff have to deal with in terms of economic development and growth are going to be well received by the community. Only 15% are the no-growthers. They are actually, it's going to be fairly consistent as we go through it. And 11 people didn't necessarily have an opinion one way or the other. Again, when we asked about the type of industries or things that they would like to see, restaurants are number one, as we indicated. Entertainment venues would be second. Recreation center, and of course you'll hear more about that from Parks and Rec, and you will hear more about that from citizens, I'm sure, as you go forward, because those are some of the things that the town really does need to take a look at in terms of future growth. And then down the list, retail, residential, office, and technology as you go forward. The next question we asked, which was, would you support the town of Sahuarita government providing incentives to develop this type of growth in Sahuarita? Now, we did not specify the types of incentives because, quite honestly, those are sort of, you've seen one, you've seen one. Anytime you're trying to make a deal with somebody to come into the community, what they need and what they want vary person to person, group to group. And so we didn't try to define the incentive, but we wanted to get the sense of whether or not the people in the community believed that the town council and the manager and staff should be working with potential residents and industrial and retail to help them move to Sahuarita. And overwhelmingly, 85% said, yes, we support that notion.
And Steve, the other interesting thing is the legislature also controls from time to time what we can do and what we can't do, which can be limiting at times.
Yes.
Based on that.
Yes. And there are lawsuits to suggest how limiting that may be.
Yes.
But this number, I think, is extremely important, and it's a very good number for the town to work with. So we wanted to look at the infrastructure of the town, and so we asked people about various types of infrastructure and asked them to evaluate it. And you'll see here the way they evaluated it across from very good to poor to very poor. Most of the numbers are quite good. And in a statement like this, I mean, you can go into the details of it, and we'll provide staff with all of the crosstabs and the other things that allow them to do a much deeper analysis as to which ones of these things resonate more or less with different subgroups of the population. But generally speaking, all of the things we asked about were quite highly rated. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail tonight, but if you have questions, we'll be happy to answer them on that particular slide. Next, if there were other infrastructure that you would like to see improved or added to the town, what would those be? And this was an open-ended question, so they could say anything they wanted, and we recorded it. Now, you'll notice that most people didn't have a specific answer, but generally, those who wanted the town to grow and would be supportive of that growth had some sense that there were more things that needed to be in the town as you move forward. Of those that gave us an answer, you see that the community or rec center or sports and that kind of recreational or sports facility was very high on the list, as were traffic improvements, parks, walking trails, and so on, pools, splash pads. One of the nice things about Sahuarita is that you really do have a community that enjoys the environment. This environment really is spectacular in this part of the state, and this has, for its entire existence, really been an indoor-outdoor community. There's an awful lot of walking and using of infrastructure. There's an awful lot of people who use the public facilities of pools and other things, and that adds to the ambiance and also the quality of life in any community. So this is representative and reflective of that as we go forward. Would you support a bond issue or a small tax increase? You know, we always want to get kind of the flexibility of somebody. They may want something to happen in the town, but whether or not they're willing to support it financially is very important. And this should be some of the best news for the town as you move forward. I know the manager had a little smile on his face when we gave him this particular slide, and I can understand why. If you go forward with some of the improvements that people are asking for, would they be willing to pay for it either through a bonding event or through a small tax increase? Again, we were non-specific, and I want to emphasize that because this was a generalized question. Would you pay more for more, whatever that more is? As you move forward with plans and those plans become more defined, you will pick up support for the kinds of improvements that you're putting on the ballot. So should you go forward in the future with a specific set of improvements, these numbers will be exceptionally important to you. 50% said they were willing to go right now, sight unseen, for whatever improvements were going to be made.
Right.
That's a terrific number to start with. Just as a number to keep in mind, we just finished working with Flagstaff on their 2 bond issues that they had for public improvements this year. And they passed with quite significant margins, and we were very, very pleased about the result. And what we said to them was the number that you want to start with when you are ready to do that kind of a bond is about a 63 to 64% positive on the package. Because undoubtedly, that 15% who have been curmudgeonly might very well stand up an anti-bond campaign, and you're going to lose support. But if you start over 60%, you can withstand that and still bring the bond issues home to improve the community. This was a significant finding, and we think it bears a very good good promise for the future. Then we turned our attention to safety in Sahuarita, and I was having a brief conversation with the chief before the meeting.
I'm sorry, Steve. Could I interrupt just for a second?
You bet.
If you go back to that previous slide.
Yes, sir.
I know that when Mary was explaining this slide to the leadership team, there was some discussion put on what your thoughts were about the 23% that said, "I don't know." Could you elaborate on that a little bit? What's your feeling about that 23%?
Well, I think a significant percentage of that "I don't know" has to do with the fact that it was a generic question. In other words, I don't know whether I would support a tax increase or a bond issue until I know what it's going to pay for. Right. And that's really where a lot of that "I don't know" comes from. The other piece of it is there are an awful lot of people in communities who don't understand municipal finance. And they don't really understand what bonding means. They don't understand how it's paid for. They don't understand the term of the bond. They don't understand what the interest rates are going to be. All of those nuances that would suggest what the impact is on the community, whether it's a general obligation bond, whether it's tied to some other form of revenue and so on. Those are things that people just don't have an opinion on.
And Steve, I would say over my time, when you're talking about taxes, the majority of people believe they pay a property tax portion to the town, which they don't. It's tied to sales tax. So if you take the yeses and then some combination of the "I don't knows" with that more information, I think that goes a long ways to getting us to that 60%. But it's for what and the type of, how you would pay for it, whether it be a bond or, a half-cent sales tax, for instance.
And I was just going to add, once we know what the issue is, and we've done polling on the specific issue and how it would be funded, typically we look at the don't knows and figure 50-50
Right.
could go.
Right.
You can't, this is more vague because it's not specific, but clearly a portion of the don't knows would go over there, and then you're starting out at a really good place.
Right.
Thank you.
So I would agree. Sorry, didn't mean to.
Oh, that's great. So, safety. We asked the question, do you generally feel safe in the town? The good news is that almost everybody feels safe in this town. The people who said no were common criminals, and we know that they shouldn't feel safe. I'm just kidding. Basically 100%, because there would be some margin for, people saying, well, I don't know, I'm not sure I feel safe, whatever. But we went into that in some detail, and so the next one was to evaluate the town according to how safe you feel in certain areas. And the issue here is whether you feel safe in your neighborhood, either during the day or in the evening, whether you feel safe in the common areas, where you feel safe in the retail areas, and so on. And generally, again, I'll go into detail if you ask, but generally, people are very, very satisfied with their feeling of safety in this community, which speaks well of the general obligation of the community to provide for a safe community, but it very much speaks to the work of the police department in any community in this regard. We even went further to ask about police services, and we asked to evaluate your perception of the level of police service for each of the following things: responding to calls, neighborhood patrols, enforcing traffic, educating the public, providing community services, and providing police reports in a timely manner. All of these were quite strongly in favor of the police. This is a good indication that you have a community that is in balance with respect to law and order and what they do in the community for recreation and for their own personal safety. So, as I said to the chief, it's good news. We also asked about the other services that Sahuarita provides to the community. And here's an interesting statistic, just in terms of those who have availed themselves of services provided by the town. Only about a third, a little more than a third had, and 2/3 had not. Now, I don't know what to make of that necessarily, other than to say that in a town the age of Sahuarita, with the level of support that you're able to provide the community, most people look inward in terms of their services, and they provide things in their home, their neighborhood, and extend it out. Those who have accessed the town in terms of services, then we asked, which services did you access? And apparently the town clerk hands out candy. I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly why the numbers were as high as they are, but everybody likes Lisa, and they should. But you see that the numbers are off the chart here. But in terms of the other services, with the exception, again, of wastewater, and only because it is something that usually when you have a problem with wastewater, that's when you get engaged with that department. All of the town services ranked relatively highly across the board. And what was important was that the very good and good were much higher than the other end of the scale. And so in a general sense, the town's delivery of services to those who have accessed them has been quite good.
And I'll just note, Mayor and Council, the qualifier here was, have you accessed these services within the last 12 months? Because we wanted to make sure that we understand the kind of feedback that we're getting. Is it an experience that you're weighing in on that was, 3 or 4 years ago, or is it more recent than that? And so that's we wanted to qualify their responses.
Absolutely. Well, that's why that free money is in her town clerk budget. She just gives away dollars at the front desk.
So here are the takeaways that you can use to go forward as a town and as a governing body and as a municipal corporation. Most residents view this place as a safe, family-friendly community, and you can't do much better than that when you want to ask people if they want to live somewhere. Next, the residents feel that there should be more retail, and particularly restaurants, and as well as job opportunities. Certainly, we're getting more and more people in the workforce who would like to work and play and live in the same place. Right. And so having jobs in the community or near the community becomes an important addition as you move forward in economic development. Many would like to see more infrastructure put in place, particularly for community activities, sports, and recreation. Again, as much outside activity as Sahuarita usually has going on, this would be a normal thing for people to want, because they want more venues where they can play, more pickleball courts, depending on how the age group works, and so on. The community seems open to considering, and this is the one that we think is also extraordinarily important, considering bonding and or a small tax increase to pay for the infrastructure that they would like to see happening. And so with that, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'd open it up for questions, and Mary and I are more than happy to answer anything you may have.
No, thank you. And once again, I enjoy working with you because we have that history of asking those common questions so we can see trends. From my perspective, obviously, which brought joy to me was they think it's a safe community, because every budget session I start with, if we're not a safe community, we're not going to talk about selling more homes or bringing more retail or more restaurants in. And also that other one where the communication, their understanding, and I know we've gone on a purposeful journey of trying to get more information out, all the way from one-stop shopping during the pandemic, to PSAs and those types of things. And I know we're going to hear from Park and Rec later on their website. So what we're doing is working, which, makes me very happy. But this also, gives us good direction. And that last point again, that usually people want things but don't want to pay for it. So to start with that kind of a number, I think that's been a good understanding. And I think knowing where our average wage in here, because I saw where that had an effect on it. You can't give money that you don't have, and we're blessed that we're in a community where people are, for generally speaking, better off than some other communities, obviously not as a whole, but all of that I think leads us to give us some direction and movement as we move forward. Any questions? Any questions? Am I right? Thank you. Appreciate it. Did you have any
Thank you, and
closing?
congrats on that.
Mayor. and
Yep.
Council, so yeah, really no direction tonight. This was just a presentation of the results of your community survey. But the idea is that you would have these things in the back of your mind, maybe digesting them, thinking about them, and as we approach your retreat in January, that's where we would start having heavier policy type discussion and direction from council on how you want us to start framing the upcoming budget.
Right.
So that's where this will come into play.
Yep, thank you. Appreciate that. Item number 15, Madam Clerk.
Presentation and discussion of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan.
Thank you. And we have a return visit from our wonderful Parks and Rec Director.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight we are presenting on our Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Teresa Jackson from Barry Dunn is here. Teresa has been wonderful to work with. We've been working together for about the last year and a half, and we brought to you about an 85-90% complete master plan. But we wanted to present it to you before I left, because we want you to have opportunities to ask any questions, and we can add things to this draft at this point. So please feel free to ask any questions or give recommendations at the end of the presentation. But right now I'll turn it over to Teresa.
Welcome, Teresa.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council. It's a pleasure to be here with you this evening. I've had the opportunity to meet several of you over the course of this planning effort, whether it's through stakeholder sessions, focus group sessions, or at some of your community events. Laura has been an absolute pleasure to work with. It's a sad day for the town, but she has left this department in an excellent place, and you're going to hear some of that this evening, as we did just in that survey presentation, with how well Parks and Recreation is being received in your community, which I always love to hear. So as Laura mentioned, we're at about 80-85% with this draft. I was with your park board last week, where we took a deep dive into the specific action items, and we had some really good conversation that helped to give us some additional direction on how we could fine tune and refine things a bit more before we get to the final document. For tonight's purpose, we're going to keep it a little bit more high level, in that this is the first time I'm before your group. And at this point, I just want to make sure you kind of see the path that we're on, understand some of our key findings that led into those action items. So for tonight's purposes, I'm going to go through the needs assessment recap. I'm going to go over some of the key findings from our analysis work, and then go over the strategic action plan at a high level. So as it relates to the needs assessment, we did a number of stakeholder interviews to kick off our engagement process. We had 8 of those. We also conducted 3 focus group sessions, a staff SWOT analysis, and an open forum that was here in this room. That's what you see pictured there. And we had over 80 individuals in attendance, and it was a fantastic meeting. People were very engaged and had a lot to share as to how they felt the department should move forward into the future. We also attended the Fiesta Saharita, where we engaged residents as they were leaving the event and tried to get a sense for what they felt was missing in the department as it relates to facilities and programs. Then we had a statistically valid survey that also had a 5% margin of error, 95% confidence. Those results are within the draft that you have now. A lot of them do mirror what you heard tonight, which is fantastic. I'll touch on a few of those survey results tonight. And then last, we had a project website where we also took feedback and used it as another engagement tool for the planning effort. So there were some reoccurring themes. When I was with the park board, back in July, we took a deep dive into everything we heard through engagement and through the survey. But to keep it high level, the key things that really surfaced to the top was a lot of positive feedback on your parks and how well they're maintained. And we have some other information to validate that as well. We also heard about the friendliness and the responsiveness of staff. And we also heard there's a general lack of facilities. That's what we heard quite a bit when we had that public input session. Several of you were here. And then the survey results did support what we were hearing in the room that evening. So we heard there's a need for a recreation center, for additional multi-purpose program space, an outdoor pool, potentially a field house with turf and basketball courts. The need for a community gathering space also came up quite a bit. Additional sports fields, both rectangular and diamond, and then we also heard about pickleball courts.
Well, there's a shock.
Can I ask a quick question? Can I ask a quick question? Was it
Yeah.
specifically an outdoor pool or just pool? Do you know?
On the so just pool when
Okay.
we're in public. On the survey, we did list outdoor pool.
Okay, just curious. Thank you.
So some of our key findings. So I wanted to highlight some of the strengths of the system because there really are some things to celebrate here as a community. So you've had tremendous growth over the last 20 years, but there's just some things that you did very well during that growth and you're continuing to do well. So one aspect of this planning effort is we had a team go out into the field and assess all of your park components. Park components, often called park amenities, those are things people go to the park to use. And they grade those components on a scale of 0 to 3. 0, health and safety issue. We need to fix it, replace it, get rid of it. A 3 is brand new. What we found in your park system is that 94% of your park components are a 2. That's fantastic. That tells us that you have good maintenance in place and you're taking care of what you have. We wish every community was doing it at that level. Another key finding for us is that we maintain a database of, we're over 6,000 parks at this juncture. And each park amenity is scored, but the park is scored as well. And the park score is based on the number of components, the quality of components, and the diversity of components, okay? So 5 of your parks scored in the top 10% of all the parks we've looked at, of all 6,000. And Animax was in the top 100. So you've got that diversity and you're taking care of what you have, exactly what we want to see. Then as it relates to access to parks, your level of service. So this is something that we're always looking at through these planning efforts. So the National Parks and Recreation Association wants to see everybody in a community have access to a park within 10 minutes time, okay? So in Sahuarita, 61% of your population has access to a park within 10 minutes. Now, in our planning effort, we recognize no 2 parks are the same. They're all different. And so we try to focus on what should everybody have access to. And we base that on the specific agency. Okay, so here in Sahuarita, we identified a goal of everyone having access to 4 components. So that could be a shelter, a playground, a baseball field, and a rectangular field, or 3 and a trail. So when we take that deep dive, and I think I misspoke earlier, 76% have access to a park, 61% have access to 4 components and 3 and a trail. Those are pretty strong numbers. That means you've placed your parks well. Yes.
Just to clarify, when they say to a park, is that strictly a town park, or if it's a neighborhood HOA park, does that qualify as access to a park as well?
Yes, great question. So in our analysis, we included the HOA parks.
Okay.
They really are an asset to your
Right.
system, and they've been placed well
Right.
additionally, so they've been included.
Thanks.
Through the survey, we found that most people drive to your parks. So we did the analysis at a 1 mile radius as well. And when you do that, 91% of your residents have access to a park, 81% to 4 components. So those parks are placed very well, okay? So what are the opportunities? So you've had a lot of growth over the years. So it's a challenge to keep up with that growth. And a couple of the metrics that we look at relate to per capita spending and full-time equivalent employees. So when we look at national standards for agencies 20 to 49,000, most are spending about $100 per resident on parks and rec services. Sahuarita is at 86. Okay, so we've got about a $30 shortfall. Okay. As it relates to FTEs, most agencies are around 28 for your population size, and you're at 18. So, you know, what we're seeing here is that it's been a challenge to keep up over the last 20 years of growth, but we have seen those incremental increases that have been occurring when we did the 5 years trends analysis. And we'd hope that that would stay on track as you continue to grow. So a couple of the other potential opportunities, and this will later tie into action items. But your park maintenance is currently contracted out, and we took note that when we take a look at your per acre spending, it's at around $15,000. The typical that we would see is around 10. So that's something that maybe a deeper dive would be needed into in the future. Then as it relates to the survey, so we asked a variety of questions. Some are about importance, others are about priority. So when we asked people what's most important, the things that rose to the top there were an outdoor pool, a new rec center, and a new indoor sports facility. When we asked them about priorities later in the survey, the top priorities are trails, so that connection within the town, and we also heard that quite a bit through our engagement, an outdoor pool again, and then additional youth and adult programming. So another metric that we look at when we're doing this type of analysis is we take a look at the number of parks per residence and the number of acres per 10,000. And so as it relates to where you stand today and the growth that's going to occur in the next 5 years, if you wanted to just maintain your level of service, you would need to add 1 park and increase your developed acres by 27. Now, if you wanted to reach National Park and Rec Association typical size agencies, you'd be looking at adding 10 parks, because in this analysis, we're not counting HOAs. Because when you report into NRPA, you only count your municipality's parks. Okay, so this is informational, but it doesn't mean that you need to add 10 parks, right? We know we have those HOA parks. And then as it relates to acres, the typical is 10.6, and you're sitting at 7.1. So I mentioned earlier that there's a desire for more connectivity in the town. So through our mapping, we have identified a variety of pedestrian barriers. They exist in most communities. In the areas of town where you're not meeting the 4-component goal, we're highlighting some of those pedestrian barriers so that potentially over time maybe they can be addressed. And sometimes that's addressed through connectivity. As part of this plan, we have J2, a landscape architect firm, as part of the planning team, and they're working on the Trails Master Plan. And so they were here just last week meeting with Laura and team and walking those existing trails. And so we are still working on that aspect, but they are really looking at that De Anza Trail alignment and that really being a central spine for connectivity. So there's more to come in that area. I don't have a map to share with you this evening. Okay, just a couple more here. So we took a look at programs over the last 5 years. And when you take the COVID years off the table, you can see those numbers increasing. And this last fiscal year was fantastic for the department as far as revenues and program numbers. Most programs are reaching capacity. The challenges they have is not having enough FTEs to support program growth or facilities to add programs, but the demand is there. And then as it relates to the survey, when you drill down into what type of programs do you want, what surfaced to the top was more fitness and wellness, aquatics, and year-round programming for youth. Okay, so as it relates to the strategic action plan, the way that we've designed it is focus areas, goals, action items. And so we took all of our findings and we collapsed them into 5 specific focus areas and then developed 10 goals from there. And we're at about 50 action items that we're still massaging to make sure they make sense for the future. And each of those action items have a time frame to complete or accomplish. So we identify short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. So the 5 focus areas we identified were level of service, organizational effectiveness, quality infrastructure, connected community, and financial sustainability. Okay? So as it relates to the level of service, the two goals there are really about diversifying and increasing programming over time. You have a demand and a need. There's also some verbiage in there that relates to ensuring the distribution of programs is fair and equitable across the community. Right now, your program locations are very limited, so trying to spread those through the town. As it relates to parks, continuing on the path you're on, but as that population continues to increase, adding another park, increasing your acreage. We also have done some capacity analysis and tried to identify specific components that you may want to consider in the future. With organizational effectiveness, there's a small error there. Goal 3 is actually related to FTEs, and that's just on the PowerPoint here. I noticed that a little while ago. It's really about ensuring as you do increase acres, as you do try to increase programming, that you're increasing your spending and your FTEs alongside that. With goal 4, positioning the department for the future, this is really about thinking big. This is about pursuing a feasibility study for a recreation center or a field house. This is about potentially adding a signature amenity to your park system. Typically, agencies, when they start to get above 25,000 in population, you start to see these signature components introduced, those gathering places, those areas that everybody talks about and wants to come to in town. As it relates to goal 5, leveraging partnerships, a lot of this work is already happening in the department, but we've got a lot of recommendations just surrounding, a department can't do it all on their own. There's a lot of values of bringing partners to the table. With quality infrastructure, the Parks Division is doing a fantastic job, but we've got some recommendations just related to putting some things in writing, making sure everything's on a replacement cycle. With Connected Community, as I mentioned, we're still working on that Trails Master Plan, but we do have some action items related to wayfinding signage. In some cases, you have trails just that people aren't aware are there. So that's kind of what those action items will entail there. And then finally, with that fiscal sustainability, there's a number of goals there. The action items associated with these kind of run the gamut. I mean, some of it is about public-private partnerships, about pursuing a bond, about increasing cost recovery as it relates to your programs. So that there's a lot in that realm that can be done to support the future growth of the department. Well, as I mentioned, I was keeping it a bit high level this evening. I'd like to go ahead and open it up to questions.
Thank you. Did you look at, when we brought on Twin Buttes and potentially Parcel 30, did you look at either or both of those to see how that would take us? I know it's not yet a real field, but it is another amenity that, one, we brought on, and two, we potentially will bring on, because we don't have in our budget to build 10 more parks, do we, AC? No, not yet, okay.
Twin Buttes was factored into
It
our
was.
analysis because it was planned and funded
Okay.
when we were doing our inventory and assessments. But Parcel 30 has not been factored into these calculations. So when we say develop one park in the next 5 years to maintain your current level of service, that would meet that.
Right, good timing from that. I thought I had one more, but I can't remember, other than I know when I moved here in '03, I went to a couple of town council meetings at Animex Park at the rec center, and I think I'm correct. Has that ever been expanded from the beginning? It never has, huh? So that's the same rec center that, when I moved here in 2003, and I can never remember it from a resident standpoint, but I was on the school board, and we had 2,000 students. Now we have 6,300. So it just shows us from a rec center potential that really we probably haven't sort of kept up. And I always thought it was a mistake. I wasn't on the council at the time, but when the school was building the pool and going for that bond, there was a potential to do a partnership, which was before, I think, all of us here. But I always worried that that was the really one good opportunity. We could have done that partnership and had a competition and a recreational component of it. But the county was going to be running 6 bond questions that year or in the near future, and all 6 bonds failed, which, all of it was tied to that, the pool was tied to that bond, unfortunately. But you on the council. I'm sorry, Laura, did you have something?
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to let you know that the building that you're referring to is actually the maintenance building. That
Oh,
was
it is?
The rec center was built in 2008.
Oh, okay.
And so, yes, the maintenance building used to be the Pima County, and it became the town hall for a little bit.
Yes.
And then we moved to the rec center.
Okay. And Shane?
Yeah, just a quick question, Teresa. Thank you for the presentation tonight. When we have a final report on this, I recognize we're at 85% complete. What's the time frame in the forecasting? Would this be considered, a 5-10 year look out, 20-year look out, 30-year look out? I mean, what are we going to expect when we get this in final form?
Yeah, great question. So this was planned and designed as a 10-year comprehensive plan. And we are looking to deliver the final in January, February.
Great. Other questions for Teresa? Yes, Simon?
I'd just like to bring up the fact, obviously you're doing a lot of study, 6,000 different parks. But trying to narrow that down more to southern Arizona and comparing us to similar type communities, if we provide levels similar or better or worse, and obviously communities that we're competing with residents that want to live here, is any part of this, the study going to include some of that?
Yeah, it does. So in Chapter 5, there's comparisons to some agencies with similar demographics and similar size. They are not all Arizona agencies, but they have similarities. The Arizona agencies that we've conducted, we term it GRASP, this type of analysis. Many of them were much larger than Sahuarita, so it's not the right apples to apples comparison. But there is a comparison, I believe, to 5 agencies within the study.
Good question, thanks. Yeah, because we always look at whether it's salary and benefits or whatever, incentives or whatever it might be, kind of our competition in the area. And of course, I work closely with the mayors of Oro Valley and Marana. And everybody knows I hate losing to either one of them. So that's always a good comparison on a local southern Arizona flavor to how we stack up from that perspective. Any other questions to my left? We're good. Thank you for being here and continuing to work with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll share just Animax in the last master plan. So it opened in 2008. The last master plan was adopted in 2012. It called for an expansion of the facility within that document. So
Right.
just thought
Thank
I'd
you.
share that. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Any closing comments, Laura?
Just that, the master plan, we went into this master plan with the idea that we didn't want it to just sit on the shelf, right?
Right.
And so we have been actively, as we are coming with these surveys and making this plan, we have been active in our department at already starting so many of these goals and objectives. Some of them we've already actually accomplished. You're going to hear about one of them next. But the great thing about master plans is it really does give you a roadmap to really, if you don't put it on the shelf, but you make it active, it really can be accomplished. And as the council already knows, there's a lot of fun and exciting things that might be coming before you in the next little bit, which would accomplish everything in this master plan. And so, but it's been a pleasure, and I know that this will give you the layout that you need to provide the facilities and the programs that the residents are asking for.
Do you want to stay and help us do it? No, okay.
I've thought about it, yes. Thank you.
Thanks, I appreciate that. Madam Clerk, item number 16.
Presentation of the new Parks, Recreation, and Community Services website.
Great, and Devin's going to be taking this, our Park and Rec manager, introduce this item, and as Laura said, I think it's going to help to accomplish at least some of the things that you had already started working on. Good evening. Welcome. Yep. Thanks. Ooh.
All right. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you so much for having me today. So you heard a little bit from Barry Dunn about the master plan and some of the information we've been receiving. So Earlier in the spring, we started getting some preliminary data from the survey, and one of the things, the common denominators that we heard was communication and a lack of from our department. And it was kind of doing us a disservice because we were putting a pretty strong effort together for our activities, programs, events, but it falls short when we can't get that out to the community. So we sat down, started discussing what our options were, and one of the things that came to the table pretty quickly was our website, and creating a platform and a tool so we can get our information out. And economic development had actually just gone through a rebuild of one of their websites, so met quickly with Victor and the comms department, and they hooked us up with a firm, Gordley, who I'd like to highlight, Richie Brever and Heather Valdez, who are two of our reps that helped us get through this project. And they were wonderful to work with. We started the project in June, July, and really burned rubber on the build. And we started the phasing in of this website at the end of October. So there's a couple of things I'd like to highlight. We had a couple of objectives when we started this build. Obviously, the first one was place for communication, and one of the things that came out strongly in the master plan findings was a need for a newsletter. So we created a newsletter, and we'll kind of go through that piece. But some other things that rose to the top was a need for potential community partners, sponsors to be able to get involved, and really a hub for the community to be able to get in, see what's happening in the department, get registered. And we kind of approached it with this idea of you're never more than 2 or 3 clicks away from where you need to be. And I think we were very successful on that. So want to just do a quick tour. Please feel free to stop me along the way if you have questions. But this is our new website. So the new website is branded off of colors and schemes that came from our town logoing. So you'll see a common theme of the yellows, greens, blues, reds. When you get to the website, the first thing that pops up is this thank you for being here. Please sign up for our newsletter. Sorry, getting the mouse. So beyond the newsletter, a couple places we wanted to highlight tonight was our landing page. We want it to be fun, a place that's exciting. So our landing page has a lot of that creativity involved. And then when you scroll down to the bottom, it's a quick synopsis of what we have going on in the department. The first thing you land on is this really nice events and activities page. Really gives us a summary of what's happening in the community, in the department. The first one coming up this Saturday is a Winterfest. And so you can click learn more and kind of get an idea of what is happening with information for the community to be able to see what's going on with mapping and everything that you would need to get involved in this event. So.
And I know you've come quite a ways of people. How many thousands do you have signed up?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of reasons why we're starting to see the participation. I think consistency is a big piece of that as well. But Winterfest this year, just some idea of what it was last year. We had, I think, 10 participants, 10 registrations for the parade, 18 vendors, and 7 food trucks. This year we're at about 40 vendors, 20 food trucks, and 50 participants in the parade. And those 50 participants, there's about 675 people that will be participating in the parade this year.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I was talking about the newsletter sign up.
Oh, yeah.
That
Okay.
you've done a
absolutely.
really good job, I think, to get to the number.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, the newsletter is at about 4,200 people subscribed. And when you think about us being able to be involved in the community, when we can send a newsletter out, we're doing it about monthly right now. We're sending that out to about 4,200 people, and it's getting at about 60% open rate. So we're anywhere from 1,800 to 2,000 people that are opening up the information that we're sending them. So we're feeling very successful with that.
Yeah, that was a great number.
Sorry for that confusion.
That's okay.
So one of the, our next piece that we'll get into is this calendars portion. So one of the things that was brought to the table was kind of a lack, and sorry, this takes just a minute to load up, was a lack of the community being able to see what's happening in our parks and our community spaces and what times were available. So we wanted to get the calendars up for the community to be able to access and see what is available. From this platform, they're actually able to go all the way through the reservation process and book themselves time, and that will automatically schedule lights as well. So we've created it in a way that we've actually reduced the amount of staff hours necessary to have to do this function and automate it, so it becomes just an approval process from our staff. So, and just a little quick scroll through. This is Animax, some of the fields at Animax, and you can really get into all of the green space in the community and see what's available.
And in the future, when we oversee such as dog parks and things like that, will they be able to go on there and know that these 2 weeks, Quail Creek's down, and then it'll
Yes.
be Anza and all of the above?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So we'll have a couple of different outlets, and I think hitting all of those outlets will be effective. So we have social media, we'll have the newsletter, as well as this landing page to really show what's open and closed.
Yep.
And I think just having more information, the better our chances are at being successful to get that information to the necessary parties.
Yep,
So,
thank you.
Absolutely. So one leg of this that we're very excited about is the sponsorship opportunities. So what you see in front of you is a packet that we had designed in process here with the website. We wanted to create something that we could hand out to community members and potential sponsors. And the way we went about it was building a packet that was 90% information of what we do and a 10% ask. So the majority of that packet is really a highlight of what we do in Parks and Recreation. The back 10%, really the last 2 pages, is an ask for organizations in the community that would like to align with us and sponsor us for community events. And that goes a long way to really start to bolster the community events and the offerings we have to the public. And we're really excited. This program started in the very first part of November, and we're already starting to see some good sponsorships and in-kind sponsors, community members and organizations that are getting involved with us. So
That's great.
And then the last highlight we'll show is this report a concern button that we're really excited about. So this platform is accessible on mobile, tablet, and computer, and we've put out QR codes at all of the parks. So if you have any kind of a concern, a broken line, if you have a water leak, if you spot something in the park, if you see an issue, you actually have the ability to scan a QR code or have this in your phone and pull up and just do a quick survey that goes and it generates an email to our management team in Parks and Rec so that we can get out and fix those issues quickly. And we've been able to respond in the last 2 months to about 20 of these issues that have popped up, all reported by the community.
So when the water fountain at the dog park doesn't work, I should go to this and not just text Laura? And say,
Well, Laura won't be here.
I know.
Yeah, text her.
Text her.
Text
Yeah.
her? Okay.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. So you can report here. You're also absolutely welcome to send emails, call our main lines, and get to us whichever way is convenient for you.
Thanks.
So just a quick walkthrough, and if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Well, this literally smells like it's hot off the press. I
That's
love
correct.
this, and I think Victor's gone, but it's having those economic development ones have been very helpful to me when I'm out in the other communities. So I love this. This really came out very nice.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, we're really excited about that, and more than anything, just to give a quick highlight of what we do.
Yeah. No, excellent. Any feedback from my left? Feedback from my right? No? Okay. Thank you. Continue the good work. Appreciate it. And I'm assuming you'll be there on Saturday.
I think I have to be.
Having no more further business, we're adjourned. Thanks for everybody being here. Thanks for the police on that 96%. Our condition index on the roads, thank you for that. Thank you to everybody for all the good work that you do.